Welcome to Reddit Echoes, where the echoes from Reddit's darkest corners are retold with raw honesty, gripping intensity, and sometimes in ways that won't let you look away. Today you'll hear stories that are not for the faint of heart, from betrayals that strike within families to revenge so calculated, so brutal. It's almost disturbingly satisfying. Each tale isn't just a story, it's a transcript of pain, of loss, of rage, simmering beneath the surface until it explodes. And just when you think there's no way that actually happened, Reddit reminds you life can always get worse. Are you ready? Put your headphones on, turn the lights off, and prepare to step into the darkest truths, the ones people only whisper about when midnight comes knocking. Story 1. My uncle got arrested for pranking me, and I was the one who made it happen. I never thought I'd have to call the police on my own family. My name is Kyle. I'm 19. I'm not the kind of guy who looks for trouble, and I'm definitely not the type to hate my relatives. But what my uncle did to me was completely unacceptable. I grew up in a small town with my mom and little sister. My dad passed away when I was a kid, so most of my childhood was spent visiting my mom's side of the family. Among them, my Uncle Mark. My mom's younger brother was the one I saw the most. He lived about a 30-minute drive away and always called himself the funny uncle. But his idea of funny was unlike anyone I've ever known. When I was little, I thought Uncle Mark was a bit rough but harmless. He'd tell weird stories, pull harmless pranks like squirting ketchup in my shoes or scare me with a creepy mask every Halloween. I used to laugh. I thought he was just trying to liven up the mood. But as I got older, the pranks started to change. It all began on my 18th birthday. My family threw a small backyard party. Mom baked a cake, my sister made a banner, and friends came to celebrate. Then Uncle Mark showed up with a big, neatly wrapped box. I thought it was a gift. I opened it in front of everyone. Inside was a large, photoshopped, naked picture of me sitting in a bathtub with a rubber duck. The crowd went silent. Then Uncle Mark burst into laughter. "Here you go, a piece of art. Hang it above your bed." I turned red, shaking with anger, but tried to hold it in. My mom pulled him aside, clearly to scold him. But as always, he just smirked and said, "It's just a joke." I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 3 months later, I found out someone had made a fake Facebook account pretending to be me. The account posted edited photos and bizarre statuses like, "I like licking other people's walls and DM me if you want to see me naked." My friends started avoiding me. A girl I liked unfriended and blocked me. I was mocked at school. And guess who the culprit was? Uncle Mark. I only found out after a friend who was a hacker traced the IP. When I confronted Uncle Mark, he smirked and said, "I just wanted to see your reaction." It was funny. That should have been the moment I cut ties. But my mom said, "He's still your uncle. Forgive him." Then came the incident that broke me. I worked part-time at a nearby convenience store. One late night, someone came in pretending to shop, then suddenly pelted me with eggs. When I chased outside, I saw a truck speeding away, with Uncle Mark in the passenger seat laughing maniacally. I was soaked, covered in egg from head to toe. Before I could even process what happened, my manager yelled at me for scaring customers. I got suspended for 3 days. I went home trembling. Uncle Mark had crossed the line. That's when I started planning my revenge. I wasn't going to hit him. I didn't want to hurt my mom. But I could fight back the way he did, with humiliation and justice. So I began collecting evidence. I asked my hacker friend to gain access to the fake Facebook account and screenshot login history, IP addresses, and timestamps. I saved the store's security footage showing Uncle Mark's truck speeding away after the egg attack. I dug up the video from my birthday where Uncle Mark gave me the nude photo gift. Most importantly, I found something disturbing. Uncle Mark had been previously warned for online harassment, a smear campaign against someone 5 years ago. My mom never knew. I handed all the evidence to a lawyer, a friend of a friend. And then, I called the police. I reported Uncle Mark for harassment, impersonation, defamation, and emotional abuse. At first, my mom was furious. She screamed, "You're reporting family." I stayed silent and handed her the file. When she read the fake messages Mark sent to my ex-girlfriend full of obscene content pretending to be from me, her face went pale. When the police arrested Uncle Mark, he shouted, "You really called the cops on me. It was just a joke." They handcuffed him and read out the charges. The whole neighborhood saw. He was held in custody for 14 days pending investigation. During that time, I didn't feel triumphant, but I did feel relieved. I don't hate my uncle. I just couldn't take being the punchline of a grown man's cruel games anymore. My mom apologized. She admitted she'd let him get away with too much for too long. The trial was held 2 months later. My lawyer was excellent. He presented the birthday video, IP logs, fake posts, and even a recorded voicemail where Mark drunkenly threatened me. Uncle Mark's lawyer tried to argue it was just a case of an overly playful personality. The judge didn't laugh. Uncle Mark was fined $8,000 and given a 12-month restraining order. Any violation would lead to criminal charges. And then, he vanished from my life. I still have the letter he wrote from jail. "You tore this family apart." No. He did that years ago when he decided that hurting people was his idea of fun. What's the lesson here? Family isn't always a safe place. Some people wear the mask of loved ones, just to stab you when you're not looking. I'm not saying you should call the cops on your relatives, but I'm not saying you should just sit there and take it either. I stood up for myself, and now I can finally walk down the street without worrying about eggs flying at my head. Story 2. The math teacher, the one who nearly drove me to end my life. I never thought I'd step foot in my old high school again. Honestly, just hearing the words Math 201 still makes my stomach churn. But here I am nearly 10 years after I graduated, sitting in front of the same whiteboard that once felt like a battlefield for my mind. And standing across from me is the person who nearly broke me, Ms. Simmons, my 11th grade math teacher. Today, though, I'm not here to learn. I'm here as a witness. Against her. My name is Marcus. I'm 27 now, a software engineer living a comfortable life, good salary, a girlfriend, a cat. But if you knew me at 17, you'd never believe I'm the same person. Back then, I was an introverted, anxious kid who actually loved math but struggled with severe anxiety. Just being called to the board was enough to trigger a panic attack. I'd shake my hands, dripping with sweat, my mind going completely blank. And then came Ms. Simmons. From the very first week, I knew something was off. She wasn't like the inspiring teachers you see in feel-good school movies. Ms. Simmons had a cold, cutting smile, hawk-like eyes, and the tone of a prison warden. She loved picking on the struggling students. And when they made mistakes, she'd mock them word for word, step by step, with cruel sarcasm that could cut through bone. The first time she called on me, I made a small mistake in a derivative equation. She smirked. "Oh, Marcus, you do math like you think subtraction is addition. Is this a calculus class or kindergarten?" The entire class laughed. I laughed too, pretending I was fine. I went home and cried in the bathroom, and it only got worse from there. Every week I was called to the board. One time my hand was shaking so much that my writing was illegible. She walked up, snatched the chalk, and wrote "incompetent" in huge letters next to my name. Another time, I turned in homework late because my grandfather, whom I was incredibly close to, had just passed away. I brought in a note from my mom. She didn't even read it. She just said, "Don't use death as an excuse for laziness." I left the class that day and went home, buried my face in a pillow, and asked myself, am I really that worthless? Friends slowly drifted away. I became the dumb math kid. One day, after being humiliated for the 5th time that week, publicly labeled a failure in front of the whole class, I went home, opened a drawer, and stared at a pencil sharpener blade for a very long time. I didn't want to die, but I wanted to feel something, anything besides the humiliation. I made a small cut on my wrist. Not deep, just enough to realize I was spiraling. I got scared, and I told my mom. She immediately demanded a meeting with the principal. You know what happened? Nothing. Ms. Simmons was a veteran teacher. She had a reputation. Struggling students need pressure, the principal said. She's strict, but she gets results. Results, I nearly ended my life for those results. My mom pulled me out of her class and into another math section. Slowly, I got better. My grades improved. I went to college. But the emotional scars from high school, they stayed with me like phantom pains, until almost 10 years later. I got an email from a sophomore named Liam from my old high school. He found a blog I had written years ago about living with anxiety. His message said, "You had Ms. Simmons too, right? I'm in her class now, and I don't think I can take it anymore." My chest tightened. This kid was living the same nightmare I had. Liam told me Ms. Simmons hadn't changed. She still humiliated students at the board, read out grades aloud, mocked appearances, mocked medical conditions. He even recorded a class session where she told a student, "If you can't understand this formula, you might as well clean toilets for a living." I listened, and my hands shook with rage. I knew I had to speak up. I began collecting testimonials from former students. I found nearly 11 spanning different years who had all been humiliated, transferred, dropped out, or developed mental health issues because of her. I organized a class action complaint with the help of a nonprofit that supports students affected by psychological abuse in schools. We filed it with the State Education Board. Included were Liam's audio recording student statements and anonymous evaluations I acquired from a retired teacher. And then, things started happening. A week later, Ms. Simmons was placed on administrative leave pending internal review. 2 weeks after that, more students came forward publicly. Local news picked it up. The hashtag not just strict started trending among parents and alumni. The once celebrated teacher known for high-achieving students was exposed as a systematic bully who had gotten away with it for almost 20 years. Eventually, I was called to testify at the disciplinary hearing. I wore a white shirt and stepped into that all-too-familiar room for the first time in nearly a decade. Ms. Simmons looked worn, hollow. Her eyes no longer had that smug superiority. I told my story, calmly, clearly, without name-calling. Just the truth of a kid who once wanted to end it all because he was treated like a joke. She was fired, permanently banned from teaching at any public school in the state. The school implemented new training for teachers on student mental health. Liam, the boy who emailed me, sent me one final message. "I don't even know how to thank you. I think you saved my life. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who almost drowned and chose to fight back. If you're going through something similar, if someone is making you feel small or broken, please remember they don't define you. And if you can do what I did, make sure they never get to hurt anyone else again." Story 3. My sister accused me of destroying our family with one vicious lie. My name is David, and I never thought the person who would rip my entire family apart would be the same person I once called my sister. But that's what happened. One lie. One vile, calculated accusation. And my world shattered. Let me take you back. I grew up as the younger sibling. Just me and my sister Lauren. She was 2 years older than me. We weren't close, but we weren't openly hostile either. If anything, we just existed in separate lanes. She was the golden child, straight A student, always dressed neat, said the right things, and played the role of the ideal daughter. I was the quieter one. Introspective average grades never really got much attention. I didn't mind. I just wanted peace. But Lauren, she never really liked me. She'd beat me in every game, make up lies to get me in trouble, twist every situation to her advantage. And me, I just let it slide. I thought it was childhood rivalry, nothing serious. I was wrong. That passive resentment she harbored, whatever it was, didn't fade with age. It matured into something ugly, something dangerous. It all began when I was 23. I had just graduated college, struggling to land a decent job, still living at home, picking up shifts at a local bookstore. Lauren, by contrast, was already married to a wealthy man and had a 5-year-old son. She'd visit our parents often, always bringing her kid, but barely acknowledged me. I'll never forget one family dinner. We were all seated laughing over something mundane, when out of nowhere Lauren turned to me and said loudly in front of everyone, "David, how long are you planning to freeload off Mom and Dad's silence?" I didn't respond. My parents just gave that awkward half smile and kept eating. And you know what? I didn't blame them. Lauren had always been their pride, the successful one. I was used to being the shadow. But then, everything changed. It was a Thursday in September. I was stocking shelves at the bookstore when my phone rang. It was my mom. Her voice was trembling. "David, are you home? Where are you right now?" I froze. Something was off. I told her I was at work, asked what was going on. Then she said something that made my blood turn ice cold. "Lauren," she said, "you..." touched her son inappropriately. I couldn't even form a word. My ears rang. "Wait. What the hell are you talking about?" I dropped everything and rushed home. My parents were sitting at the kitchen table, pale and silent. Lauren wasn't there. I demanded answers. Mom told me Lauren had stopped by earlier that day alone, claiming her 5-year-old son said something disturbing. That Uncle David made me uncomfortable. He touched me. And just like that, Lauren told my parents I wasn't to come near her son again. I laughed in disbelief. "Are you seriously buying this? What the hell is wrong with her?" But then I looked at my parents, their faces. They didn't know what to believe, and that hurt more than I can even put into words. I wasn't just being accused of something horrifying. I was being abandoned by my own family in silence. Lauren didn't stop there. She took to social media posting cryptic, venomous lines like, "You never expect the monster to be someone you know. Protect your kids even from the people you think you can trust." The internet rallied behind her. Support, sympathy, outrage. No one knew who the monster was. But I did. It was me. I stopped eating. I couldn't sleep. I didn't even feel human anymore. And then came the final blow. I found out Lauren had spoken to her son's preschool teacher. Told them there were concerns about me. At that point, I realized if I didn't do something soon, this lie would become the truth. I reached out to a lawyer. A calm, sharp guy who specialized in defamation and family false allegations. His first advice, document everything. Record her. Save texts. You need evidence. I started collecting. Every message, every veiled insult, every time she insinuated something without proof. And then finally, a miracle. I visited my grandmother. She's always been the one person in the family who truly believed in me. She never bought into Lauren's saint act. We were sitting in her living room when she suddenly broke down. She held my hand and said, "Sweetheart, last month Lauren came to see me. She was crying. Said her husband accused her of cheating and was planning to file for divorce. She was terrified he'd take their son. She told me she needed to make him think she was the protector, that the world was full of danger, that you were the perfect scapegoat. I couldn't breathe." But then Grandma added something that changed everything. She said she had been on a video call with her best friend during Lauren's visit. She had accidentally recorded part of the conversation. And that recording? It captured Lauren's voice saying clear as day, "If he thinks the boy's in danger, I'll win custody. David's the easiest one to blame. He's nothing." My knees buckled. We gave that recording to my lawyer. He listened once and said, "We've got her, but we need to be careful." We filed a lawsuit for defamation and emotional distress. We also presented the recording to my parents. My mom cried. My dad stared at the wall for an hour before smashing a glass against the floor and whispering, "Our own daughter." Lauren was served. She walked into court head high, still playing the grieving, protective mother, until the judge pressed play. The courtroom went dead silent as her words echoed through the speakers. Her face drained of color. Her lawyer immediately begged for mediation. I said no. I wanted this in the record. I wanted the world to know what she did. In the end, Lauren admitted she made it all up. Her husband filed for divorce and won full custody. She lost everything. And I was finally cleared. It took months, but I was free again. I'm 29 now, writing this 6 years later. I live in a new city with a new life. My parents cut contact with her completely. And me, I still think about it. Not the accusation, not the internet rumors, but that moment in the kitchen, when I looked into my parents' eyes and saw doubt. That hurt the most. Not the betrayal, the silence. The way no one said I believe you until I proved it. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. Sometimes monsters don't come from the outside. Sometimes they're born right inside the home. And the scariest part? They smile, they lie, and they convince everyone that you are the monster instead. Thank you for watching until the very end. If you're feeling angry, heartbroken, or maybe just relieved after that final twist, you're not alone. That's what Reddit Echoes is all about, raw, gut-punching emotions from stories that sound almost too real to be true. Have you ever been betrayed by someone close, or stood alone fighting the world just to speak your truth? Share your story in the comments. Who knows, you might just be the main character in our next episode. And if you love stories that don't sugarcoat reality, no filters, no fake happy endings, then like the video, subscribe to Reddit Echoes, and tell us what you're thinking, because the best conversations always start with a true story. We'll see you in the next video, where the truth speaks again.